Hey, look, I'm sure that barn's caught fire.
Well, if it has, it's only par for the course. Aye, I blame the telly for most of our ills today. It's made us all the same. All these weather forecasters in coloured jumpers. All these women newsreaders getting divorced right, left and centre. All these incessant royal weddings with big ears and bald patches. It's all designed to make everyone the identical same as everyone else. Well, look at me, Carter, for example. I served all through the First World War. And could you tell the difference between me and Angela Bloody Rippon?
No, apart from your muffler and your cloth cap.
Hey up, Carter. Is that the cat wanting to be let out?
No, I think it's an ambulance.
Presently the door of the pub opened, and a man in a blue uniform and a peaked cap jammed on the back of his head entered the bar.
Is this where the emergency is?
I don't know, lad. You'd best ask the landlord when he comes down. He's upstairs now, attending to his mother-in-law.
I see. What's the ale like here, by the way?
Rubbish. There's a much better pub 2 mile up the road yonder.
Just my luck, isn't it?
Aye, and listen, while you're up there, will you tell him to buck up and take heed? There's 2 men dying of thirst down here.
Right. It's the first thing I'll do after I've took his pulse.
The ambulance man went upstairs through the door marked private. He left behind him a smell of bandages and pear drops. Carter Brandon finished his pint of beer and looked out of the window. A lick of fire rippled across the ridge of the roof of the barn. Smoke tumbled and surged out of the doors and wrapped itself round the breeze.
I tell you what, that's not a bad fire, you know.
Nay, lad, nay. It's not the patch on the fires we had in the old days. I remember the day we had a chimney fire at number 47. It went up like a tinderbox. They all copped it by the lodger. Mind you, Carter, he were a tram conductor, so he knew what to do in an emergency.
And what was that?
Save your own skin and run like hell.
Yep. There's another one.
Noisy bloody things. Why they can't put silencers on them, I'll never know.
A fire tender swerved to a halt outside the fiercely burning barn. The firemen climbed out, unfurled their hoses, and directed the jets of water on the crackling, spitting heart of the blaze. They were wearing yellow oilskins, and they were calm and unhurried.
What a load of pansies.
How do you mean?
Why, my day, Carter, fire engines had bells. Real bells. And the firemen used to have to hang on the side, and they wore brass helmets and smelled of strong drink. They didn't always put the fires out, but they was a damn sight more entertaining to watch than this lot.
A second ambulance man entered the bar and looked inquiringly at Carter Brandon.
They're upstairs. You go through the door marked private.
Right.
Hey, and think on, will you? Tell that landlord there's 2 men need serving down here.
Right.
Carter Brandon looked out of the window once more. He saw the roof of the barn cave in with a roar and a cascade of sparks. He saw the old Fordson tractor spin into the air as the petrol tank exploded. He saw the fanning flames sliding towards the pumps on the forecourt of the filling station.
By gum, if that little lot goes up, it won't be too healthy around here. We'd be fried alive, you know.
By the way, Carter, do you like Jewel and Warris?
No, can't stand them.
Good. Neither can I.
The door marked private opened, and the 2 ambulance men appeared carrying a stretcher, on which was a body covered by a maroon blanket. They were followed by the stout woman in dressing gown and slippers. She was snuffling onto a sheet of kitchen roll. They crossed the bar slowly and left the pub. The blue light of the ambulance began to flash as it inched its way past the fire tender and set off for the city.
I see. Bang goes our lift, then. Hey up, here's the landlord. Now then, Squire, anything untoward happened?
Aye, it's Mother. She's passed on.
Well, that's par for the course, is that? Any chance of some service?
Certainly. Same again.
Naturally. Never change your horses in midstream. Hey, and think on. Keep your thumbnails out of the glasses this time, will you?
The landlord poured their pints. They were just about to take their first sip when a fireman walked quickly into the bar and whispered urgently to the landlord.
Right, officer. Right. Now then, you 2. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to evacuate these premises.
Why?
Owing to danger of dangerous explosion from filling station.
Bloody hell. Well, can we take our glasses with us?
No.
They downed their pints of beer in a single gulp. They stepped outside. The fireman was smothering the petrol pumps of the filling station with foam. They dragged the smouldering carcass of the old Fordson tractor into the centre of the road. It squatted lopsided with an embarrassed grin on its radiator. Suddenly the wall of the barn buckled outwards. The firemen leapt back for their lives. Masonry crashed to the ground. Jagged chunks of metal were hurled into the air and flames seared the fringes of the sky.
Shall we wait? To see if something interesting happens?
No. Let's go back to the car.
They trudged back down the hill. When they reached the car, they found a long line of traffic being held up by a policeman on a motorcycle. He smiled at them. They told him they'd run out of petrol. He nodded and walked slowly down the queue of cars and lorries, talking to the drivers. Presently he returned with a can of petrol, which he helped Carter Brandon pour into the car.
That's another thing I can't stand about the North these days, Carter.
What's that?
People are too bloody obliging.
They set off for home. At Wilson's bar they found a lorry had shed its load of Vimto bottles. They had to make a diversion. They stopped off at the Tinker's Bucket, the Oddfellow's Arms and the Gaping Goose.
Bit of a nuisance that, wasn't it, Carter?
They sat in the soft darkness of the kitchen and drank bottles of glucose stout and mithered the dog.
Funny day out, wasn't it?
No, lad. Par for the course. Par for the course.
During the night there was an earthquake in Peru.
That was Par for the Course. Stephen Thorne played Uncle Mort, Peter Skellen played Carter Brandon, the landlord was played by John Sampson, and the ambulance man by Steve Hodson. The narrator was Christian Rodska. Uncle Mort's North Country is written by Peter Tinniswood and produced by Pete Atkin.